time. But I'm just being told that we should pause because there's a technical issue that they need to deal with from the interpretation room.
Well, I guess we don't have any choice.
Audio check, 1 2 1 2, audio check. Okay, mic check, 1 2 1 2, mic check. Sound check, 1 2 1 2, sound check. Ovivan, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah. It's fine now. Thank you.
Affirmation.
Yes.
Please repeat after me. I, Mustafa Sise,
I, Mustafa
do
Sise,
affirm that I will speak the truth,
do affirm that I will speak the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth. Nothing.
Thank you very much. Testimony today, Mr. Sise. There are a few housekeeping matters that I should inform you of to make your testimony as smooth as possible. The first is that because you're via video link, we need to allow a few seconds in between our speeches in order to ensure that we hear each other clearly and our speeches do not overlap. Occasionally, there is a delay in the transmission of the sound.
Okay.
Just to make sure, you can hear us clearly, is that correct?
Yes, with background noise.
There's a background noise.
Yes.
But in spite of that, can you still hear what I'm saying?
I hear you 100%.
Okay. We will just proceed because sometimes there's a little bit of noise in the background that we have to contend with. So as I was saying, please allow a few seconds in between our speeches to ensure that there is no overlapping speech and that the sound is transmitted. Sometimes there's a delay of a few seconds, so allow about 3 seconds in between the end of my speech and the beginning of yours. Similarly, there is interpretation into the local languages within the hearing room, and so a slower flow of conversation will allow for that interpretation. So feel free to express yourself in a few sentences, allow a slight pause, and then continue. That will allow the interpreters to finish interpretation before you continue on to your next sentence. Additionally, if at any point my questions are unclear or you would like me to repeat, or for any reason because of the sound quality you cannot hear me properly, please just let me know and I will either repeat my question or clarify. For your testimony today, there are a number of topics that we will cover, and it will take quite a bit of time. So the first is the usual background information so that the commissioners know who you are. So we will address a little bit of your biographical details. We'll look at your educational background as well as your professional experience. Then we will focus on the Gambia Police Force, a few questions about the police force while you were serving there at that time. Then we will talk about the events of 2009. We will focus a lot on what happened at the headquarters, the police headquarters in Banjul. We will talk about what happened on that specific day, as well as what happened in the subsequent days following the incident that occurred there. Thereafter, we will talk about additional consequences as a result of that incident that occurred, which will span on to the few weeks and months ahead. And thereafter, we will talk about any widespread information, your knowledge regarding widespread occurrences of similar incidents around the country. And thereafter, we will conclude with the impact of what happened to you, as well as any recommendations you may have in relation to the Gambia Police Force. Is that clear to you?
Yes.
Very well. Thank you very much. So we will start with the background information. For the record, can you state your full name?
I am Mustafa Sise.
Can you tell us when and where you were born, Mr. Sise?
I didn't get that. There was a break.
Just a second, I'm being told by the interpreters that they cannot hear what we're saying. I believe the mic that is next to the TV should be switched on, which is what we did the last time. Perhaps that will help. Mr. Usher, can I ask that you switch on the mic that's on the table as well? Mr. Sise, can you please say a few words just to test and see if the interpreters can hear you now?
I hope the interpreters are hearing me.
Can I get an indication as to whether you can hear the witness, interpreters? No. Well, we'll wait for the technicians to assist us, and then we'll proceed. Mr. Cisse, can you hear me? Mr. Cisse?
Hello?
Can you say a few words so that the interpreters can check again if they can hear you clearly?
It is very cold here in Madison.
Interpreters, are we fine? Yes? Okay. Very well. We will proceed, Mr. Cisse. I had asked you to provide your full name for the record, which you did. You said Mustafa Cisse. Just to continue,
Yes.
can you tell us when and where you were born?
I was born in Kantankunda village, Kiang West, Lower River Division, on March 30th, 1974.
Can you tell us where you live presently, without stating your full address, of course?
I live in Madison, Wisconsin, United States.
So, Mr. Cisse, can you take us through your educational background, telling us which institutions you attended and when you attended those institutions?
I began my primary education at Jolly Primary School in Kiang West from 1982 to 1988. I moved to Muslim High School in Banjul from 1998, because of 1988 to 1994.
Apart from your high school education, can you tell us if you received any other academic qualifications or if you're in the process of studying any other subject?
Yes, after high school, I attended a series of courses. I did a diploma in information technology at Business Training Center in Cape Point from 2003 to 2005. I did diploma in management at MDI in 2006. I also did a series of other courses with the Gambia Fire Service, which included aerodrome communication, NASA Space Shuttle Rescue. I also did Hampshire. I also did fire rescue and investigation with Hampshire Fire Brigade. I did paramedic studies with Sussex Ambulance. And I also did a basic police training. And I studied different courses which included police command and leadership. I also studied investigations and series of other courses. I did a fire safety management at John Jay College here in UK, sorry, in New York City. Right now, I'm pursuing my degree in criminal justice management.
So apart from your academic qualifications and training, you told us that you finished Muslim High School in 1994. Can you tell us where you started work, where you began your career, and give us a background as to your progression within the Gambia, the various career and employment positions you held?
My first employment was with CCF as a surveyor, and also worked in 1993 with the Central Statistics Department as an enumerator.
Just to clarify, CCF, is that a construction company?
No, CCF is Catholic Children's Fund.
And
so Christian Children's Fund.
And for how long did you work there?
I worked there about 6 months.
And what was your position there?
I was a surveyor for them.
And after,
A surveyor.
and after CCF, you were telling us where you worked next. Can you give us the dates, if possible?
I worked with a construct company as a timekeeper up to 2006, sorry, 1996. But before this, April 1993, I worked with the Central Statistics Department during the 1993 population census as an enumerator. Fast forward, 1996, May, June, I worked with the Provisional Independent Electoral Commission as a registration officer. August, September 1996 and January 1997, I worked with the PIEC as a presiding officer in the 1997 constitutional referendum, presidential election, and the National Assembly election. January 1997, I worked with the Ministry of Education as a teacher at Sibanor Primary School. I served there until November 1997. December 97, I enlisted with the Gambia Fire. I did 7 months. During that, I was a senior man for my badge, not only as a trainee, but I was responsible for the development and the discipline of the rest of the badge. After completing my basic training, which included both fire service, the military, police, and intelligence, I received specialized training on aerodrome firefighting at the Banjul International Airport. During this time, I had specialized training in high-rise and public building evacuation, mass storage of liquefied petroleum gases, aerodrome communication, NASA Space Shuttle Rescue, amongst others. I served at the airport until March 2001. I was transferred to Kotu Fire Station. There, on top of my firefighting and communication responsibilities, I was responsible for hotel inspection, public building and public building safety, school education, that is on fire safety and basic road safety. And I was also the fire investigations officer, responsible for causes of fire.
So to be clear, you worked for the Gambia Fire Service from December 1997 until when did you finally leave, having served at these different installations?
December 9, 2002.
And after December 2002, where did you work next?
I had an admission to University of Central Lancashire in UK to study fire safety management, but this didn't materialize. So I worked in other construction companies until December 2003. I started re-enlisting to the Gambia Police Force.
When did you finally successfully enlist into the Gambia Police Force? On which date?
February 1st, 2002.
2002? Is 2002 correct?
Sorry, 2004.
So February 2004.
Yes, but for some technical reasons, administrative, our enlistment paperwork was not processed until April 2004. So basically, officially, our enlistment was effective April 1st, 2004.
But essentially, you had been working there from February 2004.
Yes, from February 1st.
When you enlisted into the Gambia Police Force, can you tell us which unit you were deployed to and what was the role of that unit?
I was first deployed to the Police Intervention Unit. This is the armed unit of the Gambia Police Force responsible for public order management, crowd control, VIP protection, protection of key installations, amongst others.
Can you tell us for how long you served with the PIU? So from February 2004 until when?
Until July 31st, 2004.
And after that, were you transferred to another unit within the police force?
On August 1st, 2004, I was transferred to Serekunda Police Station.
Can you tell us what was your role while you were at Serekunda Police Station?
I was in the charge office, responsible for receiving, recording, processing of complaints, investigation, traffic, amongst others.
And for how long did you serve at the Serekunda Police Station? From August 2004 until when?
I served Serekunda for 1 year. August 1st, 2005, transferred to the police headquarters to establish the Gambia Police IT unit.
So from 1st of August 2005, you were based at the police headquarters in Banjul.
That's right.
You said your role was to establish the IT unit at the time. For how long did you remain at the police headquarters in Banjul?
I remained at the police headquarters until April 2007, when I was sent to study peace support operations in Kenya prior to my deployment to the United Nations mission in Sudan.
Before that, just focusing on the time that you spent at the Banjul Police Headquarters, did your role change at any point? Initially, I know you said you were there to set up the IT unit. Is that a role that you had throughout until April 2007, or did you take on other roles?
No, I didn't spend much time with the IT. By the end of 2005, I was moved to the office of the Commissioner Operations to support his staff in the administrative work over there. I also supported the Commissioner of Administration. By April 2006, I was assigned with the Peacekeeping Liaison Board. I was part of the board as its secretary. That was the role I held, but I was still supporting the IT unit. I was managing the Gambia Police Force driver license database, as well as the vehicle registration database. I was also supporting the nominal role database, together with my other colleagues. By August 2006, I was redeployed as the admin officer to the Deputy Inspector General of Police. I served in this until when he became the acting IG after the 2006 election. I remained in that role until December 2006.
While you were serving as, sorry to interrupt you, while you were serving as the administrative officer to the IG in August 2006, who was the IGP at the time?
This was the deputy IG. He became later the acting IG for a moment, and then back to the deputy IG.
Can you tell us his name?
Late Usman Sane.
So you said you held that position until December 2006, if I'm not mistaken, is that right?
That is right.
And
when he was sick,
please continue.
I was redeployed to the office of the Commissioner of Administration.
I believe it was after that that you went on a peacekeeping course, if I'm not mistaken, to Kenya. Is that what you said?
Yes, I left the Gambia in April 2007.
And how long was the peacekeeping course that you attended in Kenya?
3 weeks.
What happened upon your return back to the Gambia?
I didn't come back to the Gambia from Kenya. I proceeded to Sudan, where I served for 19 months as a peacekeeper, police advisor for the UN.
So that would have been from April 2007 until late 2008. When exactly in 2008?
I left Sudan on December 5th, 2008.
Can you just briefly tell us what your role and what your responsibilities were while you were based in Sudan during the peacekeeping mission?
Initially, After my induction, I was assigned the database manager for the South Sudan Police Registration. After I established this unit in July 2007, I was redeployed back to mission headquarters in Khartoum to set up the strategic analysis cell under the reform and restructuring unit at the police headquarters. I was a strategic analyst until I left in 2008. But while doing this, I was also responsible for the induction training of new peacekeepers on police reform and restructuring and community policing. I was also a trainer on community policing, confidence building for local Sudanese police, as well as internally displaced persons. South Sudan and Darfur. I used to conduct training programs in these areas.
We will come back to some of the experience you gained, because at some point I will ask for any recommendations that you have, bearing in mind the experience that you've had elsewhere, as well as the experience you had at the Gambia Police Force. I mean, you've mentioned police reform and restructuring, as well as community policing, as one of the many other issues that you addressed during your time in Sudan. So when you returned to the Gambia in December 2008, you said you left Sudan on the 5th of December 2008. Did you return to the police force? And if so, where were you based?
Yes, we arrived in the Gambia on December 6th. It was a weekend, before 8, something like that. We reported to the police headquarters. It was myself, former Deputy Chief of Fire Service, Superintendent Usman Cham, as well as Chief Superintendent Aziz Bojang. We met the Inspector General of Police, and after the usual briefings, we were given some time to settle ourselves and resume work on the 30th of December 2008.
Can you tell us who the Inspector General of Police was at the time?
The Inspector General of Police at the time was Ensa Baji, called Jesus.
You had served, up until this time, you had served in the police from 2004 up until that point. Do you recall who was the Inspector General of Police prior to Mr. Ensa Baji?
Yes. When I first came to the Gambia Police Force, the Inspector General was Landing 13 Baji. By February 2005, he was dismissed, arrested, and detained. Major Usman Sonko.
Just to make sure that's clear on the record, you said it was Landing 13 Baji who was thereafter dismissed, arrested, and detained. Is that correct?
Yes.
We lost a bit of the sound at the end of the words that you spoke. You said after that you were going to tell us, I believe, who the next Inspector General was after landing 13 badging.
The next Inspector General after 13 was Major Usman Sonko of the Gambia National Army. Sonko served as the IG until September 2006, after the presidential elections. He was appointed Minister of Interior. Then after him, before they could appoint anybody, my former boss, who is late, Deputy Inspector General Usman Sane, was the acting IG. Few months later, I think around November 2006, Musambub was appointed Inspector General. Musambub served Inspector General until around mid-2007, when he was also fired. Then Ben Jammeh became the IG. It was Ben until 2008, when Jesus Esa Baji was appointed IG. He remained IG until I left the police.
Do you recall when Mr. Ensar Baji was appointed as IGP, when in 2008?
I was in Sudan at the time, but it was in the middle of 2008. I couldn't remember the specific date.
So in a span of a very short period of time, Inspector Generals of Police, is that correct?
Yes.
When in 2008, Mr. Ensar Baji was appointed as IGP, you told us that you finally met him upon your return in December 2008.
Yes.
But prior to that, please
I
continue.
used to work under Ensar Baji as my station officer in Serekunda in 2005. Yes, 2004, 2005.
When he was appointed as IGP, and prior to meeting him in December, had you heard any statements made by him as regards the Gambia Police Force?
My first concern upon the appointment of Ensar Baji was when he met the returning peacekeepers from Darfur in August 2008, when he made certain statements. Those were very worrying. In address to them, he said no peacekeeper was going to be extended during his time as the IG. But that was not a problem to me. What was my problem was that he said, while serving as the Inspector General, promotions in the Gambia Police Force were going to be based entirely on loyalty to President Jammeh. He said this again in 2008 December.
If we can just focus, sorry, Mr. Cisse, to interrupt. If we can just focus on the first time that you said you heard this statement, can you tell us where you heard this statement? Because at the time you were in Sudan, is that right?
This statement was not only recorded by officers who were in presence, but it was also published in the Daily Observer newspaper, I think, August 12, 2008, and it was carried on allafrica.com news channel. Online, I had it there, I saw it there too.
You provided a link to me, but we couldn't download the article. And so I haven't had a chance to review that particular article. But you started to mention that you heard the statement again in December 2008.
Yes.
And that's something that you provided to me. So please tell us what is in that statement.
He made this statement in Kanilai when the security had to harvest the president's farms. To the security forces, he made that statement that no officer will be promoted unless you are loyal to the president. That was President Jammeh. I found that very insulting. It was carried on some news channels. I have the link and I will send them over to you again. I think Point newspaper had this published in around the 5th or so December 2008 edition.
I will read out the link that you provided to us, and I will provide the commissioners with a copy during the break. It is an article from All Africa, the website that gathers different newspaper sources. And at the end, it says, well, prior to that, it's dated 1st December, Monday, 1st December, 2008. And the authors are Hatab Fadera and Asan Salah. Is that the article that you're referring to?
Yes.
The title of the article states, IGP calls for loyalty to Prezi and the nation. I will just quote exactly what is in this article as concerns the direct statements that are in quotation. So the first statement is in the second paragraph, and it says, quote, we are in the security services have realized that we are public servants of this country in which loyalty is unquestionable. It goes on in the third paragraph to say, if you are not loyal to the president and his government of the day, you have no room within my force, because I will make sure that you are out of the police force. The paragraph after that then talks about a recent donation from the president at the time, 14 brand new pickups to the police force. And later on, the quotation in the article is, so if President Jammeh is dying for us, we should also die for him. Those are the statements that supposedly the IGP at the time, Nsabaji, made. What is your understanding of if you are not loyal to the president and his government of the day? You said you found that very worrying.
What the IG was insinuating, First of all, Kanilai, at the president's farm, was nowhere where security forces should be. Security forces should not be going to work for the president on his farms. So if you don't go to work for the president's farms, you are considered not loyal. And I am one officer who refused to ever step foot in Kanilai. By reasons, and if you ask, I will explain.
I will give you the opportunity to explain your reasons now, because there are obviously subsequent events that we will talk about, which I think also shed light on that. But please go ahead and say what you have to say.
Yes, I joined the Gambia Police Force to serve the Gambian people, provide them with safety, security, and to protect their lives and properties. I didn't join the security forces to work on anyone's farm. The president, in as much as our oath of office states loyalty to the president, equally states in the next paragraph, so the next sentence rather, and his and his successors. In the president's farms is nothing for me. I am not a good farmer. That is why I left Canton Kunda. So I cannot go to farm in president's farm. While I was serving in the PIU, in July 2004, I would have been deployed to Kanilai on one occasion. There was an occasion, I don't know, I cannot remember what. I was part of the details who were supposed to be deployed there. But when we fall in, prior to our departure, they brought packets of condoms and started distributing them amongst us. This was very insulting. I immediately came out of the ranks and said I was not going to Kanilai. I surrendered my weapons and I went into the mosque, opened the microphone and started preaching about the consequences of such dangerous actions. Why will you distribute condoms to officers who were being deployed supposedly to go and maintain law and order? Since then, I had been charged, but thank God that charge never went through. Before it went through, I was transferred from the PIU. The entire PIU witnessed this. I didn't go to Kanilai because they were distributing condoms. I wasn't going to be part of it. God says, "Ta'awanu alal birri wa taqwa, wa la ta'awanu alal ismi wal udwan." Help each other in good and piety, but do not help each other in transgression and sin. I'm not going to be part of it.
So this was an incident that took place while you were at the PIU, so which would have been between 1st of August 2005 and April 2007, is that correct?
No, this was in 2004, July.
July 2004.
Yes.
So not long after you joined the police force.
Yes.
Well, we will
Since
give...
then,
please continue.
whenever there is deployment to Kanilai, I do not go.
Was that the only occasion where you witnessed this particular type of behavior, where condoms were being distributed to officers prior to deployment to Kanilai?
Yes. Because that was the only time I was detailed to be deployed.
Well, we will give, hopefully we will be able to give the IGP an opportunity to respond to the allegations in the article, as well as the oath of office that police officers take. If we can move on to when you actually first met the IGP in December 2008, you said that during that conversation, you were told to come back to take some time off and come back to work on the 30th of December 2008. Is that correct?
That is right. In that conversation, the Deputy IGP at the time, Modugay, was present. Current Interior Minister, Yankuba Sonko, was present. Former Deputy Inspector General and my contingent commander, Mod Sow, was present. Former Deputy Chief of Police, Deputy Fire Officer, Seni Sanyang, was present. Superintendent Aziz Bojang was present. Superintendent Usman Cham was present, and myself. Promised.
Tell us about the content of that conversation and what the IGP said to you at the time.
After being briefed by our roles and our achievements in Sudan and for the UN generally, the IGP promised that he was going to make sure I remained at the headquarters to establish a system where we will have strategic thinking, analysis, and compliance. Because that was something I was doing as a strategic analyst for the UN on the South Sudan police. We do produce quarterly strategic reports and democratic policy measurement tools, which we call Democratic Policy Index, that was used to measure the professionalism and performance and standards of the South Sudan police.
So during your sorry, just to interrupt, during the conversation with the IGP, was the issue of promotion discussed at all? This was in December 2008. Please tell us about that.
I missed. He was going to promote me as an officer, possibly ASP, to remain at the headquarters, establish this.
So during that conversation in which the possibility of your promotion was discussed, was there any discussions about loyalty, including loyalty to the president or the nation in that sense?
He never mentioned that to me on that day, not anyone else.
So on that day, it was based on the experience and the commendation that you had in Sudan, that he talked about possibly promoting you to a ASP and allowing you to set up a unit within the Gambia Police Force. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did anything else happen during that conversation? Anything notable?
The only thing that happened was we presented samples of our strategic reports and how they were being used by the South Sudan police and the UN police to support performance management, evaluation, and compliance for a local police force, especially a police force that was being challenged with a lot of things like the South Sudan police. And the Gambia police was not in a very better shape.
So after that conversation, you said you resumed work, and presumably you were based at the IT unit at the police headquarters in Banjul, is that right?
That was right. I resumed on the 30th of December. My posting was not finalized because I was being considered either to go back to continue on peacekeeping for the moment, peacekeeping management, police, or move to statistics department where we can use that office as a nucleus to set up a strategic analysis unit. Or the administration was also considering retaining me in his. But basically, I was in the IT office supporting them on my posting.
So essentially, you were based at the IT unit, but it was a temporary posting pending your final posting to a specific unit. Is that right?
That's it.
Can we move on to 2009? Can you tell us whether an incident occurred at the police headquarters in 2009?
On Tuesday, March 13th, I left the office early because when I came, I had some land issue at Busumbala. I reported her to the fraud unit. It was being investigated. I left with the investigator. I think that is a couple, if I can remember well. That afternoon, we left early to go to bed. I returned back to the office in the morning of Wednesday, January 14th.
So just a question, sorry, Mr. Cisse, one question of point of clarification. When you say you left the office early on Tuesday, I believe the 13th of January, 2009, when did you leave the office? Do you recall around what time?
I left the office with Baji around 12 to Brikama.
So the next time that you returned to the office, you said, was the next day, which is Wednesday, 14th of January, 2009.
That is right.
Can you give us a step-by-step account of what happened on that day?
Upon arrival, around 7:30 a.m., when my colleagues came, Inspector Yusuf Hussain informed me that after my departure the previous day, some came to the police. They came into several offices, and they came to the office. They recorded all their names. They said they were witch hunters. When he explained their details to me, I knew right there they were nothing but Satan. He told me that the IG has ordered that everybody goes down during parade. He had an event because these people were supposed to return. At 8 a.m.
Before you proceed, you said this information was provided to you by Inspector Yusuf Hussain, is that right?
That is right.
And based on the information he gave you, some people arrived at the police headquarters the day before, which is the Tuesday, the 13th of January 2004. They identified themselves as witch hunters, or they were identified as witch hunters, and they took down the names of everybody who was present. Is that right?
Yes.
And additionally,
he told me,
please continue.
Everybody in the IT unit and several other offices were recorded.
And he also told you, from what you stated, that the IGP ordered that everybody should attend the morning parade the next day, which is the Wednesday, 14th of January 2009. Is that right?
That is right.
Did he tell you any information about how that order was received? How did the IGP transmit that order to the officers, saying that they should all be present at the morning parade the next day?
Sam didn't tell me how the IG informed them on that day.
As a matter of course, isn't the morning parade attended by most or all officers? What is the normal course of events?
The morning parade is attended by most officers. Superior officers, like the IG, the DIG, and the admin, sometimes on the workload in the offices, their subordinates, like the admin officers and scribes, may not necessarily attend sometime because of their work. But otherwise, it is a roll call technically. Everybody else attend.
So to make sure that we understand this, was the purpose of the order to ensure that everybody who wouldn't normally attend actually attends that morning day parade?
No. Sometimes at the parade, for example, if you are on some assignments in the office, you remain in the office and do not go down for the...
Let me rephrase my question. On that particular occasion, from what you heard, the IGP ordered that everyone should attend the morning parade. what my question is driving at is why was such an order necessary if, as a normal course of the ordinary day, people would attend the morning parades, except some of the people you've mentioned, the DIGP and the administrative officers. So what I'm trying to find out is whether the purpose of the IGP ordering that everyone attend the parade was to ensure that even those who would normally not attend the parade should attend the parade on that particular occasion.
This order was necessary because sometimes, give me one moment, let me just, Lola. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I assume your family is just waking up right now, considering the time difference. You were telling us why you believe that order was necessary.
Yes. Sometimes you have an event. For example, you are just an investigator working on a case, or you are working on some documents. You have a timeline. You necessarily ask yourself that I'm not coming down to the parade in order to use that time to complete that task. You will have few officers in their offices who are different from these superior officers who will not come down because they have some other engagements. The purpose of that order was to ensure everybody attended the parade with no excuse.
Apart from Inspector Yusuf Hussain, did you hear about that order from the IGP from any other officer that was present on Tuesday afternoon after you had left?
Yes. Bintu Kote was a corporal in the IT unit. She also informed me of the same.
Apart from those two, did anyone else inform you about the IGP's order to attend the morning parade the next day?
No.
So fast forward.
There were two parades on Wednesday, the 14th.
Indeed, and we will get to that. Let's focus on still Wednesday morning. You arrived at the office. You heard this information from Inspector Yusuf Hussain. You said similarly, Corporal Bintu Koite told you the same information regarding the IGP's order to attend the morning parade. Can you tell us what time the morning parade took place on that Wednesday, 14 January 2009?
The morning parade took place at 8 a.m. sharp.
So can you give us a step-by-step account of what occurred on that particular day at the parade?
As usual, when the parade formed up, you have the inspectorate at the back, the other rank, the constables, corporals, make up the first and the second rank. And you also have the superior officers, ASP and above, next to the licensing office, facing the main parade, who are facing the licensing building. The parade formed up, and when the RSM, Abdul Koli, took up the parade, he informed us that the IG had an important message and we had to wait for him. That was after the roll call and all the pleasantries. So when the IG came, about 10-15 minutes later, after his usual briefing, he informed us that President Yahya had sent some people to the headquarters yesterday to screen officers of witches and also to ensure they are all loyal to him. He informed that at 10 a.m., everybody was to return to the parade ground again when these people were to return, and everybody would be screened and take an allegiance to him, the president. I didn't understand what the nature of the screening would have been, or the allegiance loyalty would have been. So by default, we went back to our offices after we dispersed, and by 10 a.m.
Before you move on, sorry, Mr. Cisse, to interrupt you. Before you move on to 10 a.m., we have about 5 minutes before this session ends. I want to still focus on the first morning parade itself and what happened there. So it seems like you received the first information that the IGP wanted everyone at the morning parade. Then at this morning parade, you said that the IGP made a number of statements. I want to make sure that those are the statements he made and whether or not we're missing anything. You said that, firstly, he said that President Jammeh had sent people to the headquarters to screen, well, will send people to the headquarters to screen the officers to determine who is the witch, essentially. The witch is...
he said they came the previous...
They came...
and they were coming back.
Apart from that, you said that he also stated that at 10 a.m., everyone should return to the parade ground because these witch hunters, essentially, were going to come back. Is that right?
That's right.
You said that he also said that everyone would be screened and that people would also have to swear allegiance to the president. Is that right?
That is right.
Apart from those statements, did the IGP make any other statements at that first morning parade?
He said everybody must attend building on any circumstance. That was what he said.
Was anything said at that point about any consequences for not complying with the witch hunters?
Yes. The IG said the executive and ever comply, whoever does not comply will be dismissed from the force. He said at the first morning parade.
Apart from dismissal being a consequence, were any other consequences mentioned by the IGP?
No. He said dismissal.
I'm sure you have heard the testimony of Mr. Abdukoli, who was the RSM at the time, and he would have been responsible for calling these morning parades. In his testimony yesterday, His evidence is that the IGP was not present at the first morning parade. Did you hear that testimony? If so,
I heard it, but it was not true. IGP was at the parade ground, and he personally made the announcement.
and your testimony is that after the RSM assembled the parade, he handed over to the IGP who uttered these statements, and then the parade ended. Is that right?
That is right.
I believe this would be a good time to stop. When we come back, we will address what happened at 10 a.m. When you had the second parade.
That's okay.
And you do have the opportunity now to pray Fajr, considering the time difference. Mr.
Exactly.
Chairman, I hand over to you for the break, and when we resume, we will continue with the witness's testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Cisse. Do pray for us all when you pray in a very, very cold Madison, Wisconsin, about what, 6 hours, 7 hours, somewhere behind us. I hope all goes well
6
with
hours.
you. 6 hours. And I do hope we don't have any technical problems when we resume. We spent yesterday and today talking about witches and Doma. I hope they take care of, they don't take care of technical problems, otherwise we didn't invent Domas and let them solve our technical problems. We will take a 30-minute break, come back at 12 noon. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.